Ultimately, in every move, there's what we call the chowder. It's usually lamps, exercise equipment.
Vacuums.
Vacuums is a perfect one. Exactly. Yeah. Upright vacuums. Just things that you cannot put conceivably into a single box. To save the most money, you want to reduce the amount of chowder.
I'm Christine Cyr-Clisette.
I'm Kyra Blackwell.
I'm Rosie Guerin, and you're listening to The Wirecutter Show. The gang's all here.
We're here.
Hi, guys.
It's so nice to be together, especially to talk about a universally miserable experience. Drum roll, please. Moving.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've all done it maybe too many times.
Too many times. Yeah. I've moved probably like 15, 20 times.
Yeah.
I'm patting myself on the back because I haven't moved in 2 years.
Oh, well,
But then
congratulations.
before that, you
we
moved
don't even have like and skate over it. Skate right over that. A lot of moves.
Yeah.
I think moving is a really painful process no matter how you do it.
And that's why I'm so excited to talk to Kit Dillon today, because Kit, while he is our travel gear expert here at Wirecutter, also moonlights as a mover on the side.
Because he has all of this great experience with moving as his side hustle, he actually helped us create an entire group of articles all about moving. And so we have those linked in the show notes. We cover everything in those, from the essential packing supplies you want to have on hand. We also have a moving checklist. And then there's actually a couple pieces in there with some really great pro tips from Kit about how to actually pack your stuff and how to pack a moving van if you're doing it yourself.
We've spoken to him before on this podcast about luggage and beach gear because Kit has been covering these topics for over a decade here. I'm really excited to hear all his best tips for how to make your movie experience just a little bit better.
I should also say thank you to our listeners who sent in questions about moving for this episode. You'll hear a few of those as we go. Special thanks to Sarah in Mission Viejo, California, whose initial question inspired this episode. Sarah, thank you. I think we can get to the bottom of the question. Is a move ever not painful?
Yeah, the answer is no, but we will give you easier ways to handle it.
There's hope. All right, we'll be back after the break with Kit.
Welcome back. With us now is Kit Dillon, who spent over 10 years covering luggage and travel gear for Wirecutter, and he does live in Hawaii, so naturally he covers beach gear for us too. And in his free time, Kit actually works as a mover, so he's pretty knowledgeable on the do's and don'ts of moving.
Kit, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi, Kit.
It is so great to have you back. So we are here to talk about moving. We are taking you out of your regular beat of travel to talk a little bit about the painful process of moving and how to make it easier. And you did a bunch of reporting for this whole series of articles that we have for moving, but you also do this on your free time. You help out a friend who owns a moving company, right?
That's right. Yeah. No. For the love of the game, I'm still doing moves every so often.
So we want to really dig in a little bit today to get the inside scoop on the best ways to approach moving. You know, moving can be really expensive. It can be very stressful, time-consuming, and basically just like a huge pain.
Trying to think of are there any positive adjectives?
I mean, of course, if you're moving somewhere you love, then it can be exciting, but the whole process can just be very overwhelming. So when people need to move, they have a lot of options. I have hired movers a couple times. I've had it done a couple ways. I'm curious from your perspective, what do you think good movers do for you? What should you expect from them? Because I think there's probably a range of services that movers will offer.
The key thing a moving company should do is just lower your stress. It should feel, once the process gets started, that your house is just moving out the door fast and everything is wrapped really well, everything's protected, moving blankets around sort of fragile pieces, a sort of sense that this will all happen before the end of the day.
But just to clarify, some movers will pack your stuff for you, but some movers are just coming to your house to move the stuff you've already packed, right?
Yes, most professional moving companies will offer packing services, usually the day before, sometimes the day of.
But that's more expensive.
It's more expensive. It's much more expensive generally.
But like, how do you trust people to pack your house for you? Like, you know where everything is, what everything is. How do you trust somebody to do that job for you?
I mean, you have to prepare. You have to sort of get things in the right place for everybody. You don't want, say, half your living room in the kitchen and half the kitchen in the living room, that kind of thing. I have a terrible time packing kitchens. I'm too slow, and I want to wrap everything carefully and put it in. And suddenly I think what's going to take a day takes like 2 weeks. And I've seen a team come in and pack a very expensive kitchen with lots of crystal and everything in about under an hour. I mean, just so fast. Nothing breaks. Everything's done well. Yeah, you're really paying for just the skills of somebody who knows how to do this very quickly and very well.
I don't fantasize about like buying a boat or having a second home. I fantasize about like having a driver, having a chef,
Mm-hmm.
and then anytime I need to move, being able to hire the full service that is going to pack and move me.
Yeah.
Yeah. These
Practical.
are very practical
This is my
luxuries.
1%, my 1% reach. Kit, we have a listener question from a listener called Barbara. She wants to know if the services that include everything, like packing and moving your stuff, unpacking when you get to your destination, are they worth it for a move across the country?
I find these sort of questions like kind of tricky because they're so personal. For you, it might be worth it. That's a pretty stressful move, right? Because you have to get yourself across country.
I've done it.
I've done it too, but I did a self-packing one, but I was younger. If I were older and with a family, I would probably just want to do a concierge door to door. You've got to get yourself on a plane or drive yourself. The truck has to go its own distance. And maybe you just want to land and have most of it already unpacked for you and ready to go.
Are there any things to look for in that door-to-door service that you were talking about?
It should feel like a concierge service. You should feel sort of that there's someone planning with you, working with you before the move, sort of helping you get prepared. Team should come in. There should sort of be somewhat of a white glove service. You don't want to sort of feel anything that's sort of fly by night at that point, particularly if your stuff is going to be on a truck for 4 days going and you're not with it.
What if someone wants a super fast move?
Yeah. So the easiest way to move yourself as quickly as possible is to use the move as an opportunity to rid yourself of all the extraneous stuff and weight of your past life and move into your new home a brand new person.
God, liberating.
Restart. Yeah, to that point, Kit, I think when we were working on these moving articles, one thing that we talked about is you should make some calculations around how much would it cost to replace your couch or your dressers or your beds or something if you're on the fence and they're not that nice. Let's say you've got the IKEA level of stuff. Moving that stuff can actually be pretty expensive. And if you're already on the fence with that stuff, it might actually be a better value to just get rid of it and get something new in your new destination, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so, often.
We know that hiring professional movers is definitely going to cost more than moving things yourself. But do you have any pro tips to make it any less costly?
Yeah, so it's going to sound strange to say this, but you want to really make sure everything's packed. The number of times I've walked into a home where everything is not packed on the day of the move, including walking in on a family just having breakfast and there were no boxes at all.
No.
And yeah, it's
And to be clear, they had not paid for the concierge service.
no,
That
they
seems
not
like
paid for
an
the concierge
extreme
service.
form of denial.
I think some people just resist the notion that this is about to happen. So don't let that happen to you. Do pack everything into boxes as much as possible. If you're in a small home or a single-story home, obviously it's sort of a little easier. But if you're in New York or a major city and you're in an apartment, everything becomes more complex. If you have an elevator, you have to talk to management about booking the elevator, blocking it off potentially. A lot of buildings only have a single elevator. They don't have a service elevator. That creates its own thing. You also have to budget that as a time issue. Movers can be exceedingly fast. And if there's sort of a slow elevator on either end of your move, it can add hours to the move just because you are bottlenecked through this one moment. Basically, you're just trying to think it through and figure out, well, what would allow for these people who come into your house to move as efficiently as possible through your house, emptying room after room after room. If there's anything sort of in their way or slowing them down, then that's ultimately going to eat up your budget.
What are some moving staples you think everyone should have pre-move?
You really want to buy, I think, brand new boxes as uniform a size as possible. When you have a house where everything is uniform boxes, well packed, not too heavily packed, the move can just absolutely fly. And the reason for that is that if I'm moving one unwieldy box or two unwieldy boxes, I have to carry those often by hand. Sometimes they don't fit on a hand truck. If I have very uniform boxes. I can put 4 in a hand truck, walk them out the door, get them into the truck, and then I can stack them in the truck really quickly. And if you have 2 or 3 people doing that, you can fill a truck so fast. The basic ideal of moving, and this will sort of reveal an insight into my own mind, but the pleasure of it for many movers, I find, is that to pack a sort of perfect truck is like the goal. And I have photos in my phone of perfectly packed trucks.
The platonic ideal.
It's beautiful when you have row after row after row of perfect boxes. And if you can get that like 8 rows deep before you put up the mattresses to sort of seal it all in, I mean, it feels really good.
This seems like a pretty clear argument against what I've seen a lot of people do, which is like beg, borrow, and not steal, but beg and borrow boxes from their local market or maybe somebody else who moved or whatever. And then they end up with sort of like a hodgepodge of boxes.
I've seen so many people do that, and it seems like such a good idea because you're already spending so much money, but that you end up losing more money, I believe, because you're slowing down the move itself.
Because you might have to pay the movers more because you have to pay them more hours.
Yeah. Just if you run into especially if it's an old box and the box collapses and then, or worse comes to worse, you've put one of those boxes on the bottom layer and then you've started stacking boxes and then it breaks and suddenly, your wall in the truck is starting to fall over and you got to brace it. And so all these little things can start to happen. Definitely don't get it from the supermarket, though. I've seen that move. And you've got bugs, you've got roaches. You don't think about it, but that's where they live. They love cardboard.
You do now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, you're putting your bedding in an old box from the supermarket. I wouldn't.
What about those plastic bins that you see now where you can rent them? What do you think about those?
Yeah, those are great. I mean, that sort of solves the problem in a couple, right? The uniform. They come with their own rollers and casters often in many cases. So you can stack a bunch of them and roll them down a hallway really easily. And then when you're done with them, they're out of your life. You don't have to kind of worry about what am I going to do with all these moving boxes.
I've done this twice with these rental boxes, and I thought it was the best way to move. The company you rent them from comes and picks them up, so you're not filling your recycling area with all this trash, and you're not having to break stuff down. And, I'd like to think it's more environmentally friendly. I think we'd have to do some kind of like life cycle analysis to actually prove that out. But it is just very, very convenient. And honestly, when you compare the price against buying boxes, it's not that different.
I think they're great.
Kit, one of the things I loved the most in the packing supply guide that you helped with is that you really recommend getting these heavy-duty mattress bags with handles. Tell us about those.
Yeah, so there are these bags that we use as a moving team this is a material similar to an IKEA shopping bag. They have built-in handles, and they're so much better than the plastic wrap mattress bag that you often see. You tape it up to the thing, you try and lift this thing, and mattresses are getting sort of increasingly complex, increasingly difficult to lift. Those plastic bags just rip so fast the minute you sort of grab them, or they're just unwieldy. And these blue mattress bags that we recommend, I think, are just top-notch. Your mattress is going to be clean on the inside. Stating here that the goal as a mover is to really pick up once and put down once, right? So if you're picking up a mattress, it's like the American flag. You don't want to ever put it down. But if you're doing it yourself, or, there's just circumstances where you really want to make sure that at least your mattress is well wrapped and well protected. And that's why I love these bags.
What about packing peanuts or plastic wrap? What do you recommend for keeping glass items and delicate items, keeping them protected?
Yeah, your best thing is still the old-fashioned newsprint, just rolls of light newsprint paper. That just sort of seems to be borne out again and again from seeing people pack and unpack, and it's the easiest to sort of clump up and put into a box. It sort of provides the most structure. Packing peanuts, I find there are few items that maybe rise up to packing peanuts, but I just generally don't find them worth the time and expense. Newspaper print can wrap glasses individually, then you can pack in between the spaces. It's all about sort of void filling. Just the good old-fashioned newsprint, that's the way to go.
Anything else on your list of moving staples?
Good packing tape. If you really want to Wirecutter it, you want to get really nerdy about it. It depends on where your boxes are going. So if you're going to put them into storage, and if there's a climate-controlled storage, and there's special tapes that are good for cold storage, tapes that are good for room temperature. There are quick tapes, 1 day, long-lasting ones. So you can really start to get into it. But yeah, really good packing tape does make a huge difference. If you're just kind of buying a cheap roll, doesn't stick to the cardboard well, that can be annoying.
Will these packing tapes have that type of information listed on them, like good for cold storage, good for, moisture?
Yeah.
So look for that on the roll.
Yeah.
That's actually very interesting. I would have assumed that was a marketing gimmick.
Yeah, me too.
No, different glues, different purposes, holds our whole lives together.
Well, what are some things that you really wish people would just tell you as a mover before you start moving their house?
I wish people were just honest about how much stuff they had going into the move.
Maybe they're not being honest with themselves, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, what is that about, do you
I'm
think?
so guilty of that.
It's a really trick. I mean, it's, some I think are. I've seen other times where, you're about halfway through the move and then suddenly the client just remembers that there are 4 closets in the garage that are full of toys or something. And you're just like, oh, man, so don't do that.
Kit, what do you recommend for tricky, delicate, maybe specialty items? For instance, Sarah, our listener who wrote in, she asked about little kid Lego kits that are fully built. I would imagine artwork and maybe some other items would have similar issues and fall into this category.
For certain items, there are specialty boxes. You want to get these things, I think. And these are specialty box for specialty items. If you can find it, you should have it. There's the TV, which is always a big one. If you're really forward thinking, you've kept your TV box and
they're
you
huge.
Put the TV. They're huge, and some people keep them, which is great, with the styrofoam and all, and it just slips right in, and that's great. For the reader's question, Lego, I have never really come across that one before. I guess if it was sturdy and you could put it in a box, and then you could fill in all the void with newsprint, I would still probably move that box myself. If I knew there was a precious Lego set in there and I didn't have the instructions anymore, or, yeah. So there's a couple items you might want to flag and say, you know what, those are going in our car. And then you have the specialty items like a piano. You want to hire movers that specialize in this thing. Very heavy objects, and I think you just need to be honest with yourself. Someone's like, oh, it's just I have a dining room table, and you get there and it's like a Game of Thrones style, like oak. It takes like a 10-man team to lift.
What about plants?
Yeah, no, plants are actually okay. Plants usually will go last in the truck. Ultimately, in every move, there's what we call the chowder. Plants are included in this. It's usually lamps, tricycles, exercise equipment.
Vacuums.
Vacuums is a perfect one. Exactly. Yeah. Upright vacuums. Just things that you cannot put conceivably into a single box. And it's inevitable. You're going to have some of it. To save the most money, you want to reduce the amount of chowder in your house. And we call it chowder because as you're moving at the end of it, you sort of have to gather these up in your arms like big bowls of chowder and walk to the truck with them. And so that's what slows everything down. And then you have to find places and sort of, precariously build this like tesseract of ropes and clips and things to hold everything in place for that last bit. So yeah, plants, oddly, not actually as hard to move as you think. You just kind of put them in one place and you rope them up and you push them against the side of the truck. It's fine.
Just so far, if you're facing a move, the first thing to decide is, are you going to do it yourself? Are you going to hire someone to help you? And you just need to make a personal choice on finances, on ease of moving, on stress, all that stuff. Once you've decided, there are some universal things anyone should be doing, which is get the right supplies. You should have uniform boxes. You should have good tape. You should have your stuff packed when you're ready to move. If you've hired movers, be honest with yourself and with them about how much stuff you have, how much it weighs, and just give them a heads up on the sort of logistics of sort of the tricky stuff that you might have in your home. And then for certain items, you probably want to figure out ahead of time which ones you're going to carry in your own car.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And when we're back, we're going to talk to Kit about some common packing mistakes that he has seen, plus his best tips for shopping for the right movers. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Kit, we just went over some of the basic things you want to think about before a move and what you should have on hand. And now we want to talk about the things that you've seen go terribly wrong. We want to learn from other people's mistakes. So what are the common mistakes that you've seen people make?
The first one that's always sort of the most baffling is people who see their wardrobes as packing boxes themselves. So leaving every drawer full of as much stuff as possible, or, sideboards still with, plates. And I put napkins in there, but also the plates, that just makes every object so heavy to carry. And then we just have to end up emptying the drawers out and carrying those individually. And so really try and empty everything, pack everything, where possible, break down everything, right? So have the drawers already out. The next thing, garbage bags. Really, you don't want to use garbage bags as boxes. They're just going to end up on the floor of your moving truck, just in a pile. If they get torn or anything happens. And I don't know if it's kind of an emotional thing, but there's something about the lack of care that a garbage bag represents that I think also, I'm a professional, but I'm still affected by that. And I treat them a little less carefully than maybe I should because it's a garbage bag. Just some care and some preciousness with your own stuff, please. And then one of the big ones we always see is trying to sort of help the movers yourself. And I get the draw of this one. I think often you see sort of the nervous dad is sort of a common trope. Just don't interrupt the flow. This is a team that knows what they're doing.
But what am I supposed to do when people are packing up my house to move? Then just stand there and watch them? What do I do?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just whatever allows you to emotionally regulate through that moment. Yeah. Go get burritos. You could go get some food. I always love when someone brings back breakfast. That's usually the dad trick, is when someone's really invested in sort of being part of the team is like, oh boy, I'm getting pretty hungry. Any good burrito, and then off they go. And you're like, there's a good mission,
I think my experience with that is kind of opposite. I'm the anxious one in my relationship and my husband's super chill. So I leave him with the movers and I go to the new place because I can't handle the anxiety of watching all these people with my stuff. So
it's very unsettling, and I absolutely understand.
What do you find is something that a lot of people forget during their move, either to pack or just to check?
Outdoor equipment. I think people are so focused inside the house that sort of the move happens, everything's done, and then suddenly there's like, oh, we have this kayak. Or it's like, oh, there's this huge hammock. What do we do with that? Or God forbid, the grill, which is usually just encrusted with charcoal and oil and dust. And then that's got to go in a small truck with all your nice stuff.
It sounds like you hate grills. Do people just
What do you have against grills?
I think, well, as a mover, look, I mean, you really are trying to protect everything. I would often just leave really old grills, just leave them. That's one of the things you can discard.
What about really big stuff? I once couldn't get a big picture into my apartment because we hadn't realized that the ceiling was too low on the stairs.
Well, you got to measure. That's the first step. I think the hardest thing often is people move in and then they maybe have a renovation in their home and they forget. And so something that could go out the front door once can no longer. And then you have to drop it out a back window. Measuring your own place and then also measuring where you're going, especially for the large objects, and just trying to be honest with what you think can possibly happen.
How about some hacks for making sure your life isn't just horrible when you're unpacking your things after the move?
My colleague, Dory Shevlin, has a great bit of advice that I would not often think of myself: to give yourself a treat, have something ready, maybe in the fridge at your new place, anything that will sort of make that first night a little more bearable. And then when you're first starting to pack is to think, what are the sort of priorities that you will need? You can usually start with a nightstand. These are the things that you keep with you, you have on hand all the time, and you put those in sort of a single box and you mark it. If it has to go in the truck, you mark it really, really well. Hopefully it gets loaded last. If you can bring it with you. You should sort of carry that with you yourself. Ideally, despite everything else, if you can just open up this one box at the end of the day, and it has, I'm going to imagine here for you, but a bathrobe, your toothbrush, your favorite book, your iPod, if you still use it.
Did you
these
just say
kinds
an
of
iPod?
I mean, the kids are using iPods these days, so
Exactly right. Christine understands. We're disconnecting.
First night box.
It's perfect.
Okay, Kit, you have given us so many great tips on just how to pack, how to approach it, the nightmare situations you've seen. I think a big part of the move, obviously, is who is moving you. So do you have any guidance on how to pick the right mover?
Yeah, you can kind of get a range of movers, anywhere from guy with a van who had a Craigslist ad all the way to large professional organizations that have offices and distributors across the country. And then ultimately, it's this very personal experience. You're sort of trusting these people with coming into your life and sort of intimately and moving your things around. So it's a really big decision. I think low quotes are sort of my first red flag that I come across. So you should always get a couple quotes anyway. And if one company comes in and they're very, very low compared to everybody else, I would generally be wary of that. Most companies have a pretty good sense of what a move should cost and how many hours it will take. If anyone's really low, the way to get that low is to go with speed, or they don't have insurance, or they don't have a very good truck. They're cutting a corner somewhere, or their team is not paid very well. You definitely want to ask about their insurance. It's sort of a general marker of professionalism, particularly if you have nice stuff. You also want to make sure it's protected. And then you want to read reviews, really in-depth reviews. You really want to sort of see everyone's personal experience. You can't just sort of take an aggregate.
And so when you're doing that, are you talking like Yelp reviews, getting on Reddit in your community, all the usual suspects in that way?
Yeah, you really have to sort of do a deep dive, I believe. I find there's companies that you can sort of see where the owner or somebody close to the owner is sort of working with the crews a lot. So you'll see that sort of a name will sort of pop up in the reviews. That means that there's sort of a consistency within the teams, and that's like a good sign, right? So that's something I look for myself. Usually you'll see, in Yelp, you start seeing like, it'll be out of Steve, it's like, Steve was so blah, blah, blah. And then like 2 reviews down, I'll be like, hey, Steve was that. You sort of see that and you're like, oh, okay, there's sort of a communal effort here, not just randos. That's important, particularly in moving.
So let's say that you're all moved in and the movers are about to leave. What about tipping etiquette? Should you tip? And how much?
I mean, yeah, you should tip. I think as a mover myself, I think you should tip all your movers as well as possible. Moving is one of those jobs it's a very taxing, physically demanding job that you are hiring other people to do, not only because they do it quickly and hopefully have some skills in doing it, but because they're putting that wear on their bodies rather than on yours. If the move went well, I think you should consider it. And ideally, just as a note, cash, give that cash directly to each mover. Put it in their hands, if possible. I know some larger companies now, you can add it to the bill and such, and that's probably trustworthy. If you're working with a small company and a small crew, ideally give it to each person individually.
Well, Kit, we've made it to our final question, which is, what's the last thing you bought that you've really loved?
I really like these air purifiers that I've been sort of putting throughout the house.
Which ones are they?
They're the Blue Air purifiers. They cut down on dust. I've been getting more allergies as I get older. So let's go with the Blue Air purifiers.
And that's one of our picks in our air purifier
guide. It is one
guide.
of our picks.
It better be.
That's right.
Yeah, so they're great.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Kit.
Thanks, Kit.
Thanks, Kit.
Thank you.
We love Kit.
Oh, he's so great.
So knowledgeable.
Chock full of advice. What are you taking away from this one?
My next move, I'm going to try my best to avoid chowder. I'm going to not let the chowder happen.
Stomach turning.
As the daughter of a commercial fisherman, I do love chowder, but I do not like that kind of chowder. But also, I am now very curious about the different types of tape. So I'm going to be going to my hardware store, and next move, I'm going to buy the right tape.
I like that. Mine is definitely going to be measuring your old house and your new one. I never think to measure, well, pretty much anything, but definitely not the new house, to make sure that everything will fit. Genius.
That's really smart.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
For me, it's going to be uniform boxes, not cutting corners, getting boxes from here, there, and everywhere. And also tipping. Tip in cash. Always tip, obviously. Tip in cash. Bonus is a thing that I like to do, which is to buy pizza for the movers.
Oh, that's
that's
nice.
nice.
I like to buy them pizza and bottles of water.
You're pretending they're your friends. Is that what you're doing?
I'm like, please be nice to my things. That is it for us. If you want to find out more about Wirecutter's coverage, if you want to check out any of Kit's moving advice, check out our website. You can find a link in the show notes. Good to see y'all. See you soon.
Bye.
The Wirecutter Show is executive produced by me, Rosie Guerin, and produced by Abigail Keel. Engineering support from Maddie Mazziello and Nick Pittman. And the audio was mixed by Katie McMurrin. Original music by Dan Powell, Marian Lozano, Alicia Etup, Rowan Nemisto, Catherine Anderson, and Diane Wong. Cliff Levy is Wirecutter's deputy publisher and general manager. Ben Fruman is Wirecutter's editor-in-chief.
I'm Kyra Blackwell.
I'm Christine Cyr-Clisette.
And I'm Rosie Guerin. Thank you for listening.
What do you mean you have a kayak?